And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside Los
Angeles. I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. Phone number 888-659-3727. Toll free 888-659-3727. It's so great to be here. As usual, another Tuesday night doing the Bald Show. Hey, listen, if you're new to the broadcast and you don't know who I am or why I'm here, I am the founder, of the American Hair Loss Association. I'm the author of a couple of books on the subject of the prevention and treatment of hair loss, one being The Bald Truth, and the book that I wrote for women many, many years ago, God, it's like a decade already, same with The Bald Truth actually, is The Truth About Women's Hair Loss. And I am a guy, a consumer advocate for men and women dealing with hair loss. And as insane as that sounds, you know, this is what I do. This is what I've been doing for the past 14 or 15 years. And the reason I'm able to do what I do for so long is because there are so many of us who are hair loss sufferers. You know, 2/3 of men by the age of 35 suffer with some degree of hair loss, and 40% of women are dealing with hair loss. And that's not a joke. That is really, you know, and when I say 40% of women, it's actually 40% of hair loss sufferers are women. So that was a misnomer there, actually, a little mistake on my part. I apologize for that. But what this means is that there is such a huge percentage of women who are dealing with hair loss that, you know, in this country and around the world, that there's no doubt it's a silent epidemic of incredible proportions. It's a neglected epidemic. And frankly, most guys, you know, listen, we're dealing with hair loss. And it's kind of socially acceptable for men to deal with hair loss. But you don't realize that women are dealing with it pretty significantly. And some of these women are women in your lives. You have no idea unless, you know, it's really, really noticeable to you. But, you know, as hair loss sufferers, we know what our own hair is like. As hair loss sufferers, we are the only people that could really initially tell that we're losing hair. You know, in my personal case, you know, I was losing hair for years, you know, from the age of 21, and it really didn't become noticeable until I was noticeable to others, until I was about 27 or 28 years old. So I was able to hide it, and I still am. But I mean, you know, for my family, for my friends, you know, I would ask them about my hair loss. You know, they saw a difference, but they didn't really see what I was able to see. And when it comes to women dealing with hair loss, you know, for the most part, women kind of start out with a lot more coverage. They have longer hair. They're able to style it differently, so they're able to camouflage it a little better than guys. So sometimes, you know, you can't tell with a woman for a very, very long time. But when it happens, it's devastating, absolutely devastating. And there are women in my life, you know, my mother, let her rest in peace, actually dealt with hair loss. She started later in life, but it was pretty significant by the time she was in her 70s. And I got to tell you, you know, my hands were kind of tied back then because I wasn't in this industry and I really didn't know what to do for her. And I would watch her and I would see that, you know, I was dealing with hair loss at the same time she was, but I would see how it really devastated her. And it affected me. It definitely affected me. It kind of was something that stuck with me for a long time. And when I got into the industry, you know, I wanted to focus obviously on, you know, my story, being a man and dealing with men, you know, and dealing with my own issues. It was easier to kind of like relate with guys. But I really wanted to do something for women. And I bring this up because, you know, I brought up my book, The Truth About Women's Hair Loss. And when I got that book out and I was able to finally sell it and get it published, the amount of email and at the time snail mail and the calls that I got through the radio show it was overwhelming. And I will tell you this about women: women are a hell of a lot more appreciative of what I do than a lot of guys out there. It's just the way that it is. And whether you're right, wrong, or indifferent, the bottom line is we are just trying to get really objective information out to the public. And again, when it comes to women, there's so much misinformation out there. And the reason, again, I'm bringing up women is we're going to have a special guest on tonight who I don't really think, judging from her pictures, has any significant hair loss. I think maybe she just wanted to get maybe her hairline shored up and some eyebrow work done. But she's a patient of Dr. Alan Bauman. I'm pretty sure Dr. Bauman is actually on the line too. So let me see if I can take his call. Let me see if this is him. Hey, Dr. Bauman, is that you?
It's me, Spencer. How's everything?
How are you? I can't complain. Now, is Liz on the other line?
I don't think she's on because she's texting me. She's having some trouble getting through.
Ah, okay. She is it busy?
Yeah, she says it's getting dropped.
Okay, that's weird. Okay, well, I got some people on hold.
I told her to keep trying.
Okay. Well, listen, I'm looking at some of her images. First of all, I want to let everybody know that we're doing a live FUE hair transplant surgery event again tomorrow. Kind of a last-minute thing, but I'm glad that I'm going to be able to be here to get it done with Dr. Bauman and his staff. And what's unique about this experience is it's going to be a FUE on a woman, and Liz is someone who's worked for your practice for many years.
Correct. Liz is my director of patient education, and she's a hair loss patient and also was born with a very, very high hairline.
Let me show some of her pictures here.
Yeah. Oh, great. I'm glad you got those.
Yeah.
Happy Hair Loss Awareness Month, by the way.
Thank you very much. I think we're the only two in the industry that really know it is Hair Loss Awareness Month.
Yes, we say that every year. So at least we can cheer together and give a hip, hip hooray for Hair Loss Awareness Month, because it is like the 12th one, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Is it 12 years already?
I think pretty sure it's 12.
Wow, that's amazing. Time really flies. I remember when you and I spoke.
I see what you're looking at. So what you're looking at here is the result of Liz's first sessions of transplantation to lower the hairline.
Now, I'm looking at her hair. I'm looking at her original hairline. It didn't look like she really had much miniaturization or any significant hair loss. So, but like you said, she was born with a higher forehead. And was it receding at all?
It was receding, and if you look at some of the photos from the side, you'll see some of the thin, wispy hairs in the temple zones. And over time, it got weaker and thinner and wispier in those areas. As on the left, obviously, is the pre or before photo, and on the right is after the first sessions of transplant.
Now, how many grafts did she have placed?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I think she's had like 1,700 grafts already into the hairline. I apologize that I didn't pull the chart tonight to take a look.
No, it's okay. I'm looking at it.
But it does take quite a bit. Hairline, to lower the hairline, as you know, for men, it can take a good 1,800 to 2,000 grafts sometimes.
Right.
So that's a good picture right there. So on the far left, that was the before photo. And you can see I've moved the hairline down almost an inch in that frontal area, and also in the temples, and I had to build out that temporal point.
Which is pretty significant. Well. It makes a really big difference when you do that.
Yeah. A lot of docs, when they do hairlines for women, they tend to make just like this big oval shape. Almost like just a big arch.
Yeah, I see that all the time.
And they completely ignore the temporal point, but the temporal point is really important even in women. Well, it's really, really important.
Yeah, I was talking about my mom. And my mom passed away many years ago. But, it's almost, I guess it's close to 20 years ago. But I remember, I was young dealing with hair loss at the time. And I was watching her lose her hair. Now, she was ill, but she definitely started to lose hair, I would say, probably in her mid-50s, which is not uncommon. But I remember the emotional toll that it took on her. And at the time, I really didn't know much about, I was just starting to do my research for myself. And frankly, at the time, it was like the dark ages when it came to surgical hair restoration, in my view. And all we really had were, I think I got her on a minoxidil and retin-A formulation that it didn't do well for her. And that was it. It
didn't do well because it just didn't work for her, or was it irritated?
It irritated her scalp. It didn't seem to do much for her. She went through a tremendous shed. And at the time, I was naive to the sheds. I didn't really know why this was happening. It was starting to happen with me as well. And then obviously as I did my research and learned more about minoxidil and these minoxidil concoctions, I mean, that's pretty, status quo. It's pretty normal to go through an initial shed. But
the hair cycling. I mean, minoxidil is a very potent hair growth stimulator, but it really switches everything into the anagen phase. So you can go through and women and men can go through this shedding phase when they first start minoxidil. And really, the stronger the treatment, like we're using the compounded 82M, which is we've talked about before on the show. Has got the retin A as well as the minoxidil and some of the other synergistic ingredients. They go through a shed for about 6 weeks.
Yeah, and that freaks people out.
Yeah,
they really have to be
I'm
made.
watching the chat room, and they're talking about how different she looks with the lower hairline. That she looks younger, and a lot less forehead, which is real interesting. Everybody's seeing that in the chat room.
Well, it makes a huge difference. And you said, the temporal points. I mean, it really, really makes a difference. And even with me, if I decided, I wear my hair down, kind of cover the hairline. But if I were to get something done, I think. Shoring up my hairline and being able to comb my hair back, it would change your look completely. It really does, and it frames the face so well. I mean, this is a really good job. I'm looking at the images now, and she actually does look. I mean, I know she has makeup in the after, but she looks a little younger.
Yeah, I think it also makes a more feminine look because when you have that a very, very large forehead, it kind of looks like a masculine receding hairline, and that's not a very feminine look for a woman.
And now, she had her eyebrows done as well?
Oh, yeah. So we did the eyebrows same time. You can see the scabbing in the 24-hour photo, and then the regrowth in the after.
Okay.
And she has some tattooing. So you'll see on this photo up above, you'll see the some permanent makeup in the shape of the brow. So
interesting.
It's really simple to to plan out the eyebrow when someone has already had some permanent makeup, and then we put the follicles in.
Okay, and so she's going in for another session tomorrow. What does she want done? Because she looks great now.
Well, she wants a little bit more densification on one side. So it's actually, I believe it's her left side where she has a natural part line, and the cowlick is on that side right there. Yeah, that photo that you had up. Her left side, which is the right side of the photo, she has a natural cowlick there. The other side.
Okay.
I see where you're pointing.
Right.
Yeah, there's a cowlick there, and actually she wants a little bit more density there. You can see the cowlick.
See, actually, the other side looks a little bit higher than this side. This side looks a little higher.
In that photo, it does, but if you look at the before photo, you'll see that there was a natural cowlick in that location before we started. So I have to recreate the hairline using that cowlick. I can't ignore it. So we had to really recreate that and bring it down a little bit lower. So she needs a little bit more density there, and she wants a little bit more in the temporal point on that side, too. Actually, I don't know if I gave you a picture of that side.
Let me see.
Her left side.
There you go.
But
right there.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, so she wants a little bit better, stronger shape to the temporal point because she likes the other side better. And that's not uncommon. Men and women often come back for a little touch-up or enhancement, density-wise. Especially if they have a lot of hair to kind of match.
Well,
they're trying to match.
Let's talk about her characteristics. I mean, right here, it's really hard for me to tell. It doesn't look like she has thinning hair at all. So it looks like she's probably a great candidate at this point. So, I mean, since she started the process, has she had any progression of hair loss, or is it kind of just stable?
Well, first of all, you need to know Liz is a maniac when it comes to her hair. She is obviously
join
in
the
hair business.
Yeah, join the club. I'm
very focused.
Crazy about
yeah,
it.
Exactly. So, I mean, she uses the laser cap every other day. She's using the treatments, the nutritionals, and so forth. She does have very fine, thin caliber hair. And then, of course, all the processing that gets done for the vast majority of women who are out there can take a toll on the hair as well. And she did go through a phase where she did wear some extensions in the back of the scalp, although that was a very, very short-lived thing. We kind of put the kibosh on that.
I got to tell you, man, here in Los Angeles, I see these young girls, and they're beautiful young girls, and I can just see, it'll be like Sunday morning, and they'll have their hair up, and you can see the extensions and the tracks, and underneath these tracks, probably because they had extensions placed lower at some point. Yeah. I mean, it's just, there's such traction in alopecia, and these are young girls.
Yeah.
They don't realize what they're doing, for the short-term beauty. They're destroying their hair.
Well, I suspect that Britney Spears shaved her head because of damage from wearing hair extensions basically her whole career.
That's a possibility. And you know what? It's funny because Andrew Zarian mentioned this. He said once she shaved her head, it never grew back the same. And I don't think it's because she shaved her head. I think it's just because, we didn't realize what the damage was, initially. So, the damage was there. And once it grew out, maybe she thought that it was going to grow out fuller, because that's just another myth. But that just wasn't the case. I know that Liz is probably trying. I don't know why she
says it keeps hanging up on her.
Yeah, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually take a quick break. I'm going to check my phone lines. I know there's someone else on hold, but that's obviously not Liz. And I'm going to put you on hold, Doc, and let's see if we can make this happen. 888-659-3727. That's 888-659-3727. I'm Spencer Kobren. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll be speaking with Dr. Alan Bauman. Hopefully Liz will be on the line so she can talk about, her prior experience with surgical hair restoration and why she wants to go and have some more done tomorrow. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back. Sorry for the quick break. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. I'm pretty sure the phone lines are working. So I'm going to first get Dr. Bauman back on the line. Hey, Doc, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing fine. I think Liz is on hold.
All right, so let's give this a shot. Hey, is this Liz?
Yes, it is.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing fine. A little trouble getting through, but other than that, I'm good to go.
I apologize for that. Hey, listen, we've been looking at your images. Dr. Bauman.
Must be all those female hair loss sufferers out there, Spencer, that you've attracted tonight.
That's what it is.
Lighten up the phone line.
And, we're taking a look, and there's a lot of guys in the chat room saying, there's look, you can definitely see the improvement. We can see why you perhaps wanted to have your hairline lowered. But it really didn't look to me, and you can tell me this, yourself, that you had really any type of significant hair loss. Did you always feel maybe self-conscious about your forehead, or did you actually notice some sort of recession?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I think that the pictures, the photos that Dr. Bauman took were a little misleading in that I was very careful to get my hair colored right before the procedure, because I knew it'd be a couple weeks before I'd feel comfortable getting it colored again.
I see.
And so when you do that in my temples, which was a genetic trait, much like a male pattern where you have the temporal recession, it was much more pronounced than those pictures really tell. But because I had just gotten my hair colored, I feel that it wasn't as evident as it really was. Some of the dye comes off on the skin when you do color your hair.
Right. No, absolutely.
But definitely, the pattern I saw my mother, my sister, and of course myself, and then the fact that I was genetically born with a high forehead, where I felt like, very self-conscious, because when the wind blew, I'd always want to have my bangs over my forehead, because I felt like it looked like my scalp was slipping off my head, and it was very disconcerting as a woman.
Yeah, well, it's not. It doesn't feel so great as a man either. But I know, because I know exactly how you feel. I'm not alone. I got the whole quasi comb over thing. So when a really strong gust of wind happens, I'm panicking. So it is what it is. But I think it's pretty brave of you to go in and not only have a procedure initially, but to do this live tomorrow on the air. We've done one female hair transplant. We did Monica Brandt, who is a pretty well-known figure competitor and bodybuilder. And Dr. Dan McGrath did surgery on her a couple of years ago. But this is really the first FUE hair transplant done on a woman that's being live streamed. So it's pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, it really is. And, I don't know if Dr. Bauman shared with you or not, but I've had both the linear as well as the FUE, so I can really talk to the comparisons, between the two procedures.
Oh, you had both? So you had a strip procedure?
I did, and at the time, I had one because Dr. Bauman also reconstructed my eyebrows, which I plucked to death as a 16-year-old. So So at the time, that was how he did that. Since that time, though, which was several years ago, that he's now doing the FUE for eyebrows as well.
Okay, so your initial procedure was a strip. So okay, so tell us. I mean, not you. So you don't know what the comparison is yet, but initially, as a woman, how did it feel to have a strip procedure?
It felt fine. I kept thinking, well, maybe I won't have to do a brow lift after this if he pulls me tight. But it was, really, it's a very it's not a painful procedure at all. You don't feel anything because you're numbed up. But, in the healing process, it was quite a bit tender. And so this is, in comparison, and I've had a small FUE procedure, by the way, Spencer, so I can definitely compare and contrast the two.
Okay.
So this will be my third, and this is just basically a touch-up because I'm a perfectionist, and I know many of your listeners out there can relate to the fact that once you get a little hair, you want a lot of hair. And so I'm just
Absolutely.
like, touch this up a little bit, especially with the hairline lower procedure because I know that the density is not going to be there with one procedure. So suffice it to say, I can compare and contrast linear versus FUE firsthand. And the linear was much more intense. And what bothered me a lot was, that not being able to get back into the gym. Because I'm a gym rat by nature.
Right.
And I'm going to get back to working out and being normal. And I really couldn't do that with the linear, and that bothered me. And it was a little bit more. It was more uncomfortable for sure, sleeping. Because you want to put your head down, and that was a little tender.
All right. Well, I mean, but that's obviously very normal. I mean, you are getting, you're having your head, a piece of tissue excised from your scalp, and then you're having it basically sewn together. So, I mean, I could see why, especially after going through that procedure, FUE probably seemed a little bit maybe more palatable, especially, since you want to get back into activities pretty quickly. And I think most people do.
Yeah, definitely. And, and that's exactly what I did. I mean, I went to work the next day. It was no big deal. Really no big deal.
Well, let me ask you, Doc. Doc, you're on the line, right?
Yeah, I'm with you.
So, I mean, okay, so I was confused initially. I thought her initial procedure was an FUE. I didn't know she had 3. I thought this was her second, so I apologize for that. So
sorry about not getting you all the info there.
No, it's okay. So I'm just glad that, we can have Liz on the show so she can compare her experiences. Now, listen, you hear this all the time. The difference from guys who initially had a strip procedure and then have an FUE procedure, it's, they say it's like day and night.
It's a world of difference. I mean, look, I've done 6,000 linear harvests, 3 of them on my dad, and we've talked about that all the time. The vast majority of these guys will have gone through it, and they've done great, and they do really well with either procedure. But if someone has gone through the linear and then goes through FUE, it makes a huge impact. They see that they're back to normal, like right off the bat. They forget, like the next day, that they even had a hair transplant.
Right.
It feels maybe like a mild sunburn, and that's it. There's no tension. There's no tightness. They're not worried about the stitches in the back of their scalp or getting bugged by the knots that sometimes, can cause a little bit of pain if you lay down on them. I mean, it's a big difference between in the post-operative phase. Starting immediately right after the surgery, they feel the difference.
Now, you basically, and we've talked about this many times, you've evolved your practice to practically 100% FUE at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've done maybe 5 linears this year, and 2 or 3 of them I think were eyebrows or eyelashes, I should say.
Okay, and so what would be your reasoning at this point in your career, in your practice, to perform a strip procedure?
Well, I was having this debate on Twitter with Dr. Farjo from the UK.
Yeah.
We're going back and forth because just this week, or actually just last week, I think they featured a linear case on the doctors or something like that. Did you see that?
I didn't see it, no.
I didn't see it either, but somebody told me they did a linear case. I think, of course, going through the options with the patient, budget is a primary concern for some patients. And of course, FUE does take a little bit longer to perform. It does require a little bit more labor. It does take a little bit more effort and energy. So the fees reflect that. And so it is about double the cost of a linear harvest.
Right.
But if you take cost out of the equation, of course, we have, flexible payment programs, and many patients pay, whatever it is, $200 a month, for the next couple of years, and they may not necessarily feel the difference if it's an extra year or two or whatever it might be. If that's taken out of the equation, then it really just comes down to patient preference. And I think patients simply don't want to be cut with a scalpel. They don't want to have stitches placed into their scalp, and they don't want to have to deal with that linear scar later on down the line.
But I think that's what might make some potential patients uncomfortable about, having to make that choice, because there's a lot of guys out there that, this is elective surgery, but it's an expensive investment for a lot of guys, for most people.
Sure.
So, they're like, especially the younger guys, under, the age of 35, who might not be really that financially stable. And they're thinking to themselves, you know what, I want to live my life. I want to get my hair now, but I can't afford FUE. So they basically, concede to having a strip when they might not really want to have it. And that kind of makes me feel uncomfortable too. Listen, I think if you know what you're getting into, and you've said this many times yourself, even though you've evolved your practice to FUE, a really good strip procedure can make a huge difference in somebody's life. And still, the standard of care for many, many physicians who are, some of the top physicians in the field, right, wrong, or indifference, it is what it is. That's what
right.
That's what most of them are doing.
And like I said, we've done lots of strip procedures, and patients can do very well with them, but there are limitations to that process. I mean, you can have the very best healing, and you could heal with a thin pencil line, which is great, and how it should heal. Provided everything goes smoothly.
But it doesn't always happen.
But yet still, even with a pencil line scar, there's still something that goes on with the angulation of the hairs that in some cases, especially with dark straight hair, light-colored skin, and short haircuts, gives it away.
I agree. I agree 100%. I've been in this industry for a very long time, and I've been researching it even longer. And I've seen some tremendous results from, and I like to call it conventional harvesting. And I don't know why the people out there, the powers that be in the industry didn't name it something differently. Something different.
Well, why don't you call it? You can call it traditional.
Well, I called it traditional harvesting, or whatever. But
because it's not necessarily conventional.
Did I say conventional? I meant traditional. Did I say conventional?
Oh, traditional. Okay.
Yeah, I meant traditional.
Yeah, I mean, I accept traditional harvesting. And that's how I talk to patients too. I mean, I had a patient today that came in and wanted to get the pricing for both, pros and cons. But
what about trying to get the pricing down for these patients? Is there a way that we can figure something out where it's going to be where they're not going to have to make the choice over the price? That's the biggest issue that I have with this. And I understand, the costs are more, it's more labor intensive. But I mean, how can we figure this out? Because that's a very tough decision for guys to have to make. Yeah.
You know what? That's a great question. And, unfortunately in my practice, it's not really the priority. I don't come to work thinking, how am I going to do this process cheaper? And not to say that,
I get it.
There aren't practices that might do it that way. We don't differ. I mean, we haven't really. I've been on your show many, many, many times. We never talk about price. But the point is that, we add things into the procedure because it makes them better. And, I have the luxury of having a busy practice. I don't have to worry necessarily. If something makes the procedure better, we do it. Like, for example, adding PRP, using platelet-rich plasma to store the grafts and for wound healing. Having laser treatments before and after the procedure, having an antiseptic machine that does the scalp wash with massage. I mean, these are adjunctive things that maybe they enhance the results, but they add cost to the process.
And listen,
it's just the way that it is. So
and I'm very open with this. I'm a capitalist. I understand. If it's something that you're providing a tremendous service to these patients, you're changing their lives, and if they have the means and they're willing to pay for it, I certainly understand that, and I'm fine with that. But I'm just talking about the rumblings and the message forms, the emails that I get, and I try to explain to these young guys. First of all, the younger guys really should kind of hold off on having a hair transplant anyway. They might want to wait till they're more mature. Maybe as they get older, they're not going to find it as necessary to have the hair transplant. And then if they
stabilize on prevention, these types of things.
Absolutely. And when they get into their 30s and they're more stable with their hair loss and their life and their financial circumstances, that's the time to really make a decision. unfortunately, a lot of guys that frequent the message forums and that, frequent our resources, they're young guys. These are guys between the ages of 22 and 30. And there is a segment of the hair transplant industry, in my view, that really focuses, or who really focus on the real young patient. And there's a lot of young guys who are getting hair transplants, and they're making that decision based on cost. It's one thing to say, you know what, I think I can get more bang for my buck with a strip, or I think I can get better grafts with a strip, or whatever. And I'm not saying that's the case, but it's another thing to be forced into it by cost. And I tell all these guys, and if whoever's listening right now, if cost is an issue, then you shouldn't even consider having a hair transplant. That's just the way that I feel about it. If it's going to really hurt your pocketbook, if it's really going to be a huge financial sacrifice for you to have this done, then wait. It's always going to be there.
Yeah, and you know what, Spencer, and I agree with you 100%. The interesting thing is that over the years, we've actually been able to lower the cost of FUE. So the cost of FUE today in my practice is lower than it was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And so we've been able to do that through efficiencies with the process, efficiencies with the procedure, just our ability to get more grafts literally in less time that are better quality than what we were getting before.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about, you're using the NeoGraft, and there's a lot of pros and cons with NeoGraft. The biggest con that, people are talking about and that I've been talking about for years is just getting this device in the wrong hands. It's not the device itself. The device works fine. In your hands, in your practice, you are extracting, clean grafts, and your patients are getting great results. But I mean, what, as far as the evolution...
Well, it's the same thing as a liposuction device. I mean, you're not just going to go out to somebody who picked up a liposuction device and took a weekend course. If you're going to have liposuction, you want to go to somebody who's done, thousands of liposuction procedures using all manners and methods of the process, who could use just about any device that's on the market. You're not going to choose your liposuction guy just because he bought the latest and greatest machine and went to a weekend course, a month ago.
Absolutely. But sadly, tomorrow, especially down in Florida, there's going to be plenty of women who are going to have liposuction by guys who just took a weekend course. That's just the way that it is, unfortunately. But
Florida's bbeen notorious for that. Although I know the laws have changed, which is nice. The Florida Medical Association, a lot of the boards, and Department of Health have changed a lot of the laws and such, so make it more difficult for the cowboys to get out there.
Yeah, absolutely. But the one thing is, it's everyone's always making the comparison, even doctors in the industry, and it's out there online. The NeoGraft to the Artist to the handheld to the Safe System to what Dr. Cole is, his CIT, and all this stuff. I mean, what's the bottom line here? How do people make a decision on what type of FUE to go for?
Well, I think you have to look at the surgeon's results. You have to look at their hairlines. You have to get a feel for the philosophies of their practice. I have a downloadable white paper that tells you how to choose a surgeon, but, obviously, being selected and accepted by the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons is something that is very important to me, obviously, and you've done a great job at selecting really good surgeons. But, it's just like an artist. I mean, no matter what kind of, if you give them the right size paintbrush, hopefully they'll be able to paint a good picture with it.
Well, absolutely, and I appreciate the compliment about the IHRS, but the truth is, even within the IHRS, and I've talked about this, and I talk about it publicly, there's this competition amongst, doctors and everyone, even amongst the elite, everyone is claiming that they're doing the best type of procedure. And people are naming their procedures differently, and they're marketing their procedures differently. You've never done that, which I appreciate. You said, listen, I'm choosing the NeoGraft because for me, this is what works. This is what I'm seeing is working for my practice and for my patients. But you've never kind of renamed or tried to, reinvent the wheel, so to speak, when it came to FUE.
I've always held the philosophy that if a better device came along tomorrow, we would use it.
Yeah, and
I mean, that's just what we do. I mean, I use the OmniGraft, which many people don't even realize was the predecessor of the NeoGraft. I went out and I bought that device. I had that device. I used it. It was not a great device. I wasn't thrilled with the speed, the quality, the ergonomics. It was a difficult device to use, and I could never make it work any better than what we were doing with a manual tool.
Right.
So, but when I saw the upgrade, when I saw the difference between, the OmniGraft, which was a 4.0, and the NeoGraft, which was a 5.0, I mean, it was a massive revolution. It was a huge change in technology. And so I was attracted to it. Did I know it was going to be great? Well, I didn't know.
Right.
I took it for a test drive.
Yeah.
And man, the thing drove like a beauty.
Look, I spoke to a guy in Belgium today who is applying to the IHRS, and he does FUE, hand, punch FUE. And of course, in his mind, he doesn't like to go near the devices because he says he really understands the feel. He's able to feel the outer sheath, and he's able to feel the curve of the hair follicle. And this is what how he expressed it. He wasn't saying that the machine, the automated stuff or the quasi-automated stuff was bad, but he was saying in his hands he's able to get 1,500 grafts a day by hand. How difficult is that? And is it even possible to get them out by hand without?
You can do it. You can do it, and I'll tell you, Dr. Lorenzo in Spain is a master at manual FUE, and you watch him, and he's it's like robotic. He's just a madman.
Yeah.
So it can be done. I mean, I got to like 700 a day before we got the NeoGraft. 700 and 1,000 was kind of pushing it. But with the NeoGraft, we're getting easy 15 to 17 each day.
But do you think that there's any type of an appreciable difference as far as someone who's doing it really great manually or someone who's doing it great with the NeoGraft? Besides the issue of fatigue, I'm talking about just the grafts themselves.
The way you're going to compare is the size of the instrument, because the size of the instrument is going to determine what the tissue trauma is. Right, so a 1.0 millimeter, which sounds pretty small, right? That's like the size of your ballpoint pen tip.
Right.
The difference between a 1.0 millimeter and a 0.8 millimeter, in terms of the amount of
the surface area.
The amount of surface area is dramatic. It's like 40% or something.
No, it's significant.
IR squared, right?
Yeah, it's significant.
So that's a huge difference in the size of the instrument with just a fraction of a millimeter in difference. So that trauma makes a difference. Also, the depth of the instrument. How deep does it go? And is the depth adjustable for each patient? Like, for example, we customize the depth on the NeoGraft for each and every patient to release the follicle. So we don't go any deeper than we have to go, and we don't go too shallow, which wouldn't release it. So that's, for us, it's very, very important. And then the question is, what do you get? How many hairs per graft? If you're using a 0.8 and you're only getting 1 or 2 hairs per graft, your average hair per graft is going to be very, very low. But one of the things I noticed right away with the NeoGraft, and it only took maybe a month or two to see this, is that our hair per graft numbers went up dramatically.
Wow.
So our averages from 1.5 or 1.6 all the way up to 2.4 to 2.8 hairs per graft.
Yeah, and that makes a huge difference to the final result.
Massive difference.
Yeah.
I mean, because it could be 30% more hair just by going up a few fractions of a hair per graft.
Yeah, and this is what I'm tired of, and I'm sure you are as well. I'm tired of the doctors, just going in there.
You forgot to introduce me again. Somebody's asking in the in the chat room who I am.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Listen, I'm speaking to Dr. Alan Bauman, guys. So anyway, my biggest issue is it's not my biggest issue, but it's a big issue. I'm just tired of the infighting. I'm tired of, I'm on the phone with these guys, whoever it is, saying, well, the NeoGraft stinks. This is why I do this. And this is, the bottom line is patient results. And I've been saying that forever. And I get a lot of shit online and, through our resources about, why do I allow this? And it's not that I allow anything. This is the way technology is evolving. You're using the NeoGraft. Dr. Harris used a safe system, and now he's using the Artis. That's just the way that it is. Are his patients happy? They seem to be very happy. Are your patients happy? They seem to be exceedingly happy. Are Dr. Cole's patients happy? Yes. And you're all using different instrumentation and slightly different techniques. So I think there's more than one way to skin a cat, and I think that we just can't be dogmatic about it.
Right, and what I see when I go to the plastic surgery conferences and cosmetic surgery conferences, and these guys may be just a little bit more evolved in the way that they explain what they do. Because it's natural for this guy to say, "Oh, my rhinoplasty, my nose jobs are better because of this."
Right.
But what they've done is they've evolved the verbiage, and so these doctors say. And I think it's very eloquent when they say, well, this is what works best in our hands.
Right.
And I think when they give their presentations, then it's not so dogmatic. And I think that we need to change that verbiage when we talk to patients, too.
I agree.
I will say that in my hands, this is what works best. At Bauman Medical Group, this is the way we do it because this is what works best in our hands.
Right. And I like that. That's the way it should be explained. Unfortunately, a lot of the other doctors in the field are not quite as diplomatic, either publicly or, behind the scenes when it comes to, doing consults with patients. And I hate hearing that, especially amongst IHRS surgeons. I hate hearing. There shouldn't be any backbiting. There's so many. Where the industry is going, and I'm going to use the word evolving again. It's just so great what's been happening with the field. There's so many great things happening. Patients have more options than ever before. And to me, that means there's more business for every doctor, especially the good guys, than ever before, even in a quasi-recession. So, I would hope that there'd be more guys out there, and there's a lot of docs who are listening, that would kind of just accept the fact that, hey, you know what, Alan Bauman's using the NeoGraft. He's getting great results. Again, James Harris is using the SAFE system, and now the Artist. They're getting great results. Dr. Ziering is now using the Artist because he sees the results and thinks he can get the same results in his practice, and so are some other guys. That's just the way it is. I just think, again, and I'm going to repeat myself, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and I just want to put that out there because, God, it gets so frustrating when you read what's being written by people on the message forums who really don't know the reality of the industry and the reality of what's going on in individual practices.
True.
So I just wanted to put that out there.
And Liz, and there's going to be more and more and more devices that are coming out. I mean, we got an interesting device. Literally, a longtime friend of mine who's been in the business for a while, been in the hair business for a while, dropped off a cordless and rechargeable FUE device.
Oh, wow.
And it's very cool. It's called the Alpha Graft. And look, we're testing it out.
Now, didn't Alan Feller invent a cordless FUE device as well?
Yeah, I think he did have a battery pack on his. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So, I never had the chance to use Alan's device. He never sent me one.
Yeah.
But
he probably would have had to buy one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this one, someone dropped it off and let me borrow it so I could try it out. But I liked it. I liked the feel of it. But I wanted them to make some changes to the punch. So there were some issues there. I think it could be a good device. Will it replace what we do with the NeoGraft? I don't know.
Right. Now, what about? Okay, so we're talking about other devices. What do you think about the Artist at this point? I know. I know you've seen like this iteration. I know they say they're going to be improving it, but from what you've seen so far, what are your thoughts?
Well, I went out to Harris's place and saw the procedure being done by the Artists. Of course, I was there during all the presentations at the ISHRS, International Society of Hair Restoration Surgery conferences. I saw it in action. You have to prepare each small zone for the robot to kind of do its thing. And so there's a lot of preparatory work to just get the small zone extracted. And even though the extraction rate can be pretty quick, there's a lot of downtime because then you have to readjust this tensioner, and there's a lot of steps and stages. And unfortunately, maybe it was just a fluke, but the one that I saw, I didn't think the speed or the graft quality was matching what we do in our practice every day.
Right.
Listen, if maybe the next version will be awesome. Maybe that we're looking at the OmniGraft version of the Artists,
Sure.
And the next one, the next 2.0 will be like amazing.
Right.
But, from what I saw, I don't think it would have added anything to my practice at all in terms of speed or quality. And those are two pretty important things for us.
No, I agree 100%. I've spoken to other guys who are now using it, Dr. Bernstein, Dr. Ziering. I know Dr. Cooley just got one, and they're excited. There's a couple of other doctors who are considering getting it. I know at least in Dr. Bernstein's practice, he's saying that the grafts are coming out really well. I think it also might be patient-dependent as well, just like, a traditional FUE.
And really well compared to what? Because if you don't typically do mechanical FUE on a regular basis, then what are you comparing?
Well, but Bernstein was definitely doing FUE for maybe not on a regular basis like you were, but for a while there, he was really, obviously he wrote the first paper on it with Rassman, and he was really, getting involved with FUE. So he definitely was able to see. He was
very involved, but I never really saw lectures or presentations of the results of that, of large size regular cases, like 1,500 grafts, 2,000 grafts, 3,000 grafts. cases. And so
Look, you're right about
if
that.
you're doing small cases, well, like I said, I could do a small case. We did it manually with a Miltex biopsy punch.
Right, right.
That was the cheapest thing known to man. It was 50 cents. But what are they comparing it to? And
you're right about
that. Would be my question.
Yeah.
So how does it compare? I have very good records of how the NeoGraft increased the graft count and increased our hair per graft, which are my ratings for quality and speed.
What about doing some sort of a comparison between the artist and the NeoGraft, in one setting?
Yeah, great. I heard that Glenn's got one, so he should just bring it over here. I can, I'll race him.
Yeah, you can put it on a dolly.
He's pretty competitive. I bet he would do it.
He just might. Well, listen, guys, I'm gonna let you go. Liz, I want to wish you the best of luck tomorrow. I know you got to get some sleep, and we will be there. What time do the festivities begin tomorrow?
Okay, so you guys are going to chime in we're going to start to go live at 10 a.m. Eastern time, okay, which is 7 a.m. Pacific, all right? And then you guys will come in, the Bald Truth will come in at noon Eastern time.
Right, which is 9 a.m. on the West Coast.
9 a.m. West Coast.
Okay, so people can see the beginning of the stream, the morning session on your live stream?
Correct. So it's livestream.com/hair transplant now. Actually, I'll put it in the chat room.
Okay. And obviously, you guys can check out thebaldtruth.com, watch live tomorrow, and it's going to be on gfqlive.tv. It's going to be on Ustream and Stickam and all the great resources that we syndicate this broadcast on, or that GFQ syndicates the program on. So, we're excited. And, Liz, I wish you the best of luck. Get some rest, all right?
Oh, thanks, Spencer. I'm in great hands. You know that, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to know that.
Well,
I know that. You have to know that.
I know that.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing and hearing from everybody tomorrow.
All right.
During the show.
All right. Terrific.
Yeah, be sure to, you can ask all questions on Twitter, and there's the chat room in live stream as well for your listeners. And of course, you'll be taking the calls starting at noon Eastern.
I'll be taking the calls. We'll probably do it for about an hour and a half, something like that.
Yeah, we'll do however long it goes, just like we had done before.
All right.
It was great. We had nearly 75,000 views.
It was crazy.
On that last one with Ralston. I was trying to get him on the show tonight too, but he was busy. So
you know what? And when I was looking at the tape, I was really impressed at how everything went. You guys are great too, by the way. I mean, your imaging, your feed was incredible.
Well, thanks. We got Dylan and David coming back again to help us out. So.
All right, cool. Listen, I'm looking forward to it. Dr. Alan Bauman, check him out. Go to www.ihrs.org. You can check out Alan Bauman on the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons site. And, of course, baumanmedical.com. And join us tomorrow.
For live female hair transplant.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. All right, Doc, listen, thanks a lot for dropping by.
Thanks, Spencer. Thanks for having us.
All right, take care.
Talk to you tomorrow.
All right. 888-659-3727. That's 888-659-3727. I know Joe's been holding on forever, so let's take Joe from Staten Island. Joe, man, I'm so sorry. You had no warning. I know that you didn't know that Dr. Bauman was going to be on the show. Thank you for holding.
Well, you're welcome, Spencer. I want to thank my millions of fans in the chat room for the demanding I get on the air. I'm very flattered. I'm sure you've been monitoring the chat room.
I try to. It's sometimes it's too busy for me. I'm monitoring everything else, trying to run the show.
Well, just let me give my quick opening.
Go ahead. I don't mind.
I have to call. I verbally and viciously attacked my father yesterday. He made a comment that I wanted to strangle him for.
What was the comment?
I can't believe it's 2012. They didn't come out with something yet that slows down hair growth so people could save money on haircuts. When the man said that, I wanted to end his life.
Jesus.
My name is
Joe from Staten Island.
My name is excuse me. My name is
Would you like me to reiterate it?
My name is
Have you heard it? Excuse me.
My name is
Joe from Staten Island.
Joe, the guys in the chat room are saying the Joe Show begins, and yes, it does. Actually, I should have just called you tonight to do the show because honestly, man, I just wasn't in the fucking mood anyway. You know what I mean?
Well, it's not me. It's the people who are writing this in. I'm not writing this in.
No. I'm serious. I should just call you. I'm telling you, I'm getting to the point where I'm just like, I'm doing this for 15 years. I should just hand the reins over to Joe. You know, I'm getting a little tired of the whole thing, to tell you the truth. I love the positive side of the hair loss industry, and I love the positive aspects of what I do and the people we've helped over the years. But, you know, all the negativity and, you know, the craziness that goes on, I'm just kind of, at this point in my life, I'm just like, you know what? Who needs it anymore?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't need to do this. I don't need to do this to make a living anymore.
How could you pay the rent if you don't do this, man?
I haven't paid rent in a long time, my man. But how can I pay my bills, you're saying?
Yeah, if you were in the hair world, I mean, what would you do for a living?
Don't worry about it. I'd be absolutely fine. I promise you.
Fine.
So maybe at some point I'll hand it over to you and Andrew, and you guys can do the bald truth.
Okay, well, I would be Andrew's sidekick if he would allow that. We'd have you on as a special guest star. How would that sound?
Yeah, I'll hang out. Like I'll just be drunk in the corner, and I won't even sit here in this mic. I have really nice leather chairs over there, and I can just do the second mic and just sit back and drink and just let you guys run everything.
All right. As you know, the chat room has been very, very busy. So can I address a few things if you don't mind?
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, first of all, I want to comment. It seems that our audience doesn't seem to be very interested in hearing about hair transplants for some reason. I mean, have you gotten that impression too, or is it just me?
Well, you know, you have to understand that there's the guys who are actually participating in the chat, and then they're like in this particular room, there's like 123 people, 4,300 people total in this room, but there's rooms all over the internet that are watching the show. So there's a couple of guys in this chat that are uninterested, but there's so many people that are watching and listening on iTunes and Stitcher Radio that, you know, they are interested. Really, only the hardcore guys are coming into the chat. That's just the way that it is.
The radical guys.
Yeah, the average hair loss guy is just listening to the show right now. They're in their car. Maybe they're listening to Stitcher, or they're on iTunes, or they're watching the program on Ustream or someplace else. They're not in the Bald Truth, and they're not watching on this particular player.
Well, I'm waiting for the day when a doctor comes on and says he's able to get more donor area, to triple your donor area. That would be, in my opinion, would be real news. You know, I'm not criticizing Dr. Bauman. He's a great man.
But Dr. Bauman, and he gets criticized all the time. I get criticized all the time. It's just the way that it is. He does his thing. He helps a lot of people. And, you know, I'm normally not the hugest fan of the Neograph, but in his practice, I'm a big fan. And I've said that a million times. And there are doctors that get on my case about that. You know, they're like, look what's happening with Neograph. You know, all these doctors, you know, these non-medical personnel are getting their hands on it. It's destroying the industry. I said that a long time ago. I said, that's what's going to happen. You guys need to get together and take a stand, because Spencer Kobren is the only one who's saying anything about this. And they were like, well, you know, we don't want to, you know, we don't want to put our necks on the line and shit like that. And now they're all complaining about what's happening to the industry because of devices like the Neograph. You know, it's just, the whole thing is just, it's so screwy. I can't even tell you. But the good news is, in the right hands, the Neograph is doing a good job. There's a guy in the OC, Williams, you know, Joseph Williams, I think his name is. I don't think he's a big fan of mine for a couple of reasons, but, you know, he's a really caring doctor. I interviewed him about the Neograph a long time ago. It seems like he's doing a good job with it, you know, and he's only done FUE. It's the only thing he's ever done. I do not recommend him through the IHRS, but it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the work that he's doing. He's just relatively new in the field. That's really all. That's the only reason at this point. But he's a doctor that really cares about this. You know, he goes in there, he does the work himself. He has great techs. This machine's getting in the wrong hands. And I think eventually, I'm hoping that the artist system kind of stays within the hair transplant industry, But if it doesn't, if they're not making money, if they're not selling enough devices, eventually you're going to see this thing float out into the mainstream cosmetic surgery world, and it's going to cause a lot of problems, man.
But if the Adirans comes out in 2014, this thing won't even exist. It'll be like antiquated history.
I don't think so.
Correct?
No, absolutely not. I think that Adirans, when their technology comes to fruition, it's going to be an adjunct to some sort of hair transplantation, either FUE or they may use it with strip. Basically, what they're going to do, and this is obviously my opinion, I don't know this as fact. So, guys, please, when you transcribe the show and put the shit out there on the internet, realize that this is not. I'm not saying this as a fact, but in my opinion, they're probably going to get somebody in, do even if it's a small procedure, take some of that tissue from that procedure, send it out to the lab, then the person will come back once the everything the cells are sent back, and then they're going to basically be topped off with this new technology. But it's not going to be standalone initially. I really don't believe that it will.
Well, according to my studies of Adirans, they're going to take like a 25-tab biopsy from the back of your neck, reproduce the cells, then inject them into your scalp. This is what my studies have shown. Maybe your studies have shown something different.
My studies have shown the same thing, but it's going to be used. My studies have shown, Joe, that it's going to be used as an adjunct to a hair transplant. So, it doesn't mean they're going to use a strip procedure or a traditional harvesting procedure. They may end up using, FUE and maybe taking a larger biopsy. But I think that's the way it's going to happen.
Well, the bottom line is you'll be pretty close in the limited donor area. I mean, that's my impression of Adirans.
Yeah, Billy agrees with Joe and not Spencer on this one, and that's cool. Joe is our resident expert. So, and again, I'm going to give him the show, guys. I decided.
I'm not Spencer. You're the expert, not me. I'm just an underling.
Joe,
you are the boss.
I just want to tell you.
You are God.
I just want to tell you, it doesn't matter to me. It's very important that you understand that. I love you. You're a great guy. You've been a tremendous asset to the show for the last 14 years, and you deserve all the accolades that you get. You really do. I want you to know that.
Well, the only accolades I really want is those injections on my scalp, man. The accolades I really want from Adirans. They'll appear with you live in your studio unmasked.
That would be very funny, actually. I'm not down tonight. I'm just a little tired, actually. I'm not down at all.
You seem slightly upset tonight. I've noticed that.
a little agitated. But
but I'm not responsible for that, am I?
Absolutely not, dude. Absolutely not.
Well, what I'm hearing is Adirans supposedly has corrected the direction that had problems with the head growth direction. I don't know if you've heard that in the Jami studies. The growth of the hair going the wrong direction. They've apparently conquered that problem.
And that's exciting. And that was one of the biggest issues, obviously, for the last few years. So, I mean, imagine if you got these injections and all of a sudden your hair is growing in the wrong direction. As much as...
How are you following me?
You think it would, but, I'll give you an example. You look at something like the Fleming-Mayer flap, where they take a peninsula of hair, like a banana-shaped a piece of tissue, and they maintain the blood supply. And so they basically cut it out, stitch you up here, keep it kind of like hanging off a piece of skin so there's still blood supply. They dig a trench into your scalp, and then they place that hair and flip it in the other direction and place it into your hairline to kind of create this really dense hairline. The biggest problems with these connected or jury flaps, they're called, is that the hair would grow in the wrong direction. If it took completely and there was no necrosis, the hair would still grow in the wrong direction, and it never, in my view, ever looked normal. So being able to comb that hair was very, very difficult for people. So direction of growth means a lot, dude. I know you're just joking because you can look like a Cupid doll. You would never be able to comb your hair. And
well, at least I'd have something to comb.
What'd you say?
At least I'd have something to comb.
That's true. Listen, who knows? Maybe you just slick it down somehow with some hairspray and just kind of like cover your scalp with it. but it wouldn't be really attractive.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I have no inside information like people on other message forums do, and I mean that sarcastically. From my opinion, the reason they took over Hair Club was because they're getting ready to set up shop. As I stated, I think last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a possibility. I also think that the time was right. I mean, they paid a lot of money for the Hair Club, $163.5 million. And I know, at least according to what I've been told over the years and just looking at, the numbers, the Hair Club was not making a lot of money. They were actually losing money at certain points. And even towards the end, they were increasing their surgical sales, but they still weren't doing as well as they once were. So, there's definitely a specific motivation that I may not be aware of, but I think he might be on track to some degree.
That's definitely true. A little bit of news time, if you don't mind. Give me a few more minutes.
I'll give you a few more minutes, and I got to take some more phone calls.
I understand. Of course, your producers, I'm sure, are giving you orders.
Yeah, they give me all the orders. It's the voices in my head that give me the orders, Joe.
Oh, you hear voices like me. Wow.
Go ahead.
I hear voices all the time.
I'm my own producer, my board op. I'm screening my own calls.
You know the voices tell me in my brain? When the F is this goddamn the worst disease in the world going to end? That's what the voices are telling me. Now, the guys want to get the Neojet. Well, that's a matter of opinion. I mean it all the respect, Spencer. You know that.
I do.
I love you, man. You know that.
I know that, Joe.
And by the way, I want to say some of your detractors criticize the fact that you wear purple shirts a lot. I think you look very remarkably handsome this evening.
Well, thank you very much. I think they actually look purple more because of the lighting there. It's actually blue. I'm a fan of blue shirts.
Oh, I see. Well, as you've probably seen online, the L'Oreal Corporation last week made a major corporate presentation on their neogenic product.
Let's talk about it.
You're aware of that. You've seen that online.
Let's talk about it. I'm reading the chat.
Okay.
So this is your segment, dude. Go ahead. This is your audition for taking over the show.
I can never take over the show. I don't have your talent, man. I'm just underlined.
All right, dude, you're on. Go.
All right, so they had this big presentation in the Vichy Laboratories, which is the scientific subdivision of L'Oreal, and they were showing all kinds of slides about their neogenic. Now I'm saying, please don't my detractors, the haters, quote me. This is what they're saying. This is not what I'm saying. That their product directly acts on progenitor cells at a cellular. You
can do it, Joe.
Medication's kicking in. Cellular.
You can do it, Joe.
This one, man. Cellular.
That's it. You did it.
What? Cellular level.
There you go.
Okay. And the product is stemoxide, which actually affects the cells. Okay? And they say within 3 months we've grown 18%, 16 to 8% of hairs in patients.
Well, and it's all over, dude. That's it.
I mean, that's remarkable. That's better than a transplant.
That would be incredible. We're out of here.
Now, I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't say it's a cure. Now, the product would be dispensed in some kind of something that looks like an electric toothbrush. You load it with a cartridge and use it on a daily basis. You put it on your scalp, and then, it comes like 40 vials for a month or 30 vials. I'm not sure exactly how many. You put them on your scalp every day, and they'll be charging about $100 a month for it.
You know what? And that's reasonable.
No, I don't know.
If it works, $100 a month is a steal. If it works, I pay $1,000 a month or more. People would pay a lot more.
I mean, they claim, these people are real scientists, and they're claiming, 80% regrowth in 3 months, which is, it's a lot. And people asking is releasing in the U.S. I'm assuming so, because the FDA has the cosmetic has no say on this. I correct? Am I correct in that analysis?
You are correct. Listen, I'm all for it, dude. I'm really hoping that this is gonna be happening.
Well, I will personally be using it on an isolated area of my scalp. See if we'll lengthen some of my hair transplants in a particular area.
Well, listen, maybe I'll get some. Maybe I'll try it in my balding spot. I mean, why not? This is my concern. With anything, adding any new agent to my regimen is that I'm going to go through some sort of a shed. Right now, I have enough hair back there where it holds. It makes the derm match work. But if I lose a significant amount, then that paint is not going to look good. It's going to look like I painted my head, and it may look that way to some degree, depending on the light. But for the most part, in natural light and fluorescent lighting, that doesn't seem to be very noticeable. But if I lose, I'd say another 15% or so back there, it's going to get a little shoddy.
Yeah, it could be a problem. But I want you to know, like Dr. Alan Bauman is monitoring the chat room, and he just stated that I will be conducting a scientific trial.
That you will be, or he will be?
That I will be.
Yes, you are. Joe is conducting his own scientific trial from his bed in Staten Island, and it's exciting.
I mean, maybe he could answer this question. Has he ever heard of a person's transplants that have stayed the same length for 25 years? I mean, has anyone ever heard of that? I mean,
I think
outrageous.
I think you asked Dr. Bauman that at one point, and I think that
I don't think I asked him. I asked other doctor.
Oh, but the question is, is it just that the grafts are cycling, that the hair is just growing for a very short period of time, and then, a couple of hairs, because you have bigger grafts, are falling out, and then, you're not noticing that cycle, and it's just a short cycle. I can't imagine the hairs sticking in your hair, in your scalp, and not growing at all. It doesn't make any sense. How is it possible?
2 to 3 inches, or 4 inches, some of them, where the donor area grows like forget it, almost 3/4 inch a month. I have to constantly cut the donor area. I mean, they grow. I mean, they have to grow. Dr. Bauman is now stating they have to grow. It's a cycling issue. I don't know what he means on that. Maybe Spencer, could you elaborate on that?
I agree. How can and obviously I'm not a physician, but how can it stay in your scalp if it's not growing? You can't just stick, keratin fibers in your scalp and expect them not to just eventually, be rejected or to fall out. This is hair. In order for it to actually stick out there, it's got to be growing, cycling. It's in your skin. It's part of the tissue. It's doesn't make any sense.
No, it's being replaced. Obviously, 25 years is still there, but doesn't get long.
I guess and that's what I said. It's cycling. It's a shorter cycle than normal. That's all that it is. It's not cycling, to the point where it's going to grow, 6 inches. So maybe it's only growing 4 inches.
Do you have any explanation for that?
I have no explanation at all. Maybe Dr. Bauman in the chat room can explain that.
Well, I've used Rogaine, I've used Propecia, I've used dutasteride, various psychotropic medications, but I don't think that helps any. But, all kidding aside, people, they don't get any longer.
That's weird, man.
The bottom line. Dr. Alan Bauman is not saying I'm a mystery.
You're an enigma wrapped in a mystery wrapped in enigma. I don't know what to make of you.
Well, if he could, so one more thing very quickly. If he could perform some beard hair transplants on me, my beard grows like amazing. I have to shave like twice a day. Maybe he could help me there. I'd be glad to get him publicity. I'm very wealthy. I can afford to pay him.
Yes, you are. You're very wealthy. You tell me you're making $70,000 tax free a year.
Yes. I'm not trying to brag in front of anybody, but
Dude, you're breaking the bank there, dude. I mean, you're making some serious dough. Well, listen, I got to tell you, that's definitely a great pension. That's unbelievable.
Well, I risked my life for 20 years.
You did. I did. Listen,
my biggest fear.
Giving out those parking tickets is dangerous. It's dangerous work, dude.
Well, I had shots fired at me once in my car. My biggest concern was my hat falling off my head. My big exposing my scalp.
Listen, I'm going to take some. I'm going to take some calls, Joe. All right.
Yes, I want to thank you for the time. And Dr. Bauman, would I be able to call the show tomorrow? Is that possible?
Absolutely. Call the show tomorrow at noon. You know,
All right.
you
Would
know,
you leave me? Are you leaving me potted up, or are you dismissing me from the program?
no, I'm not dismissing you, dude. I'm going to leave you potted up. All right?
Okay, thank you, Spencer. I appreciate that. God
All right.
bless you. You really are a great American.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air.
My world's coming to an end. Joe's taking over the show. You're ready to pack it in, and hair loss is going to be on forever.
No, man, hair loss is not going to be here forever. That I could almost guarantee, you know. But I may be the hell out of here. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. And I
want either the Land Rover or the
Why would
Lincoln.
I'm not killing myself. I'm not offing myself.
Oh, that's what I took it as. You were going to go hug a train or something.
Oh my God, that's horrible. I would never do anything like that.
Well, that's what it sounds like. I mean, it sounds like you're just ready to pack it in, man.
Oh.
Joe, my hair loss brother from another mother. How you doing?
Miserable, Johnny. What do you think? I'm a hair loss sufferer laying in bed.
Dude, first of all, let me put this out there, for all you guys. I mean, I have a wonderful life. I love my life. I love my wife. I love my world that I'm in. There's just I get frustrated sometimes with this industry and this business, and the fact that I've been doing this for 15 years. That's all. So you guys are my fans and my friends and my listeners, and I just feel that I could be open with you guys and express my frustrations. I can guarantee I'm going to be back next week.
I got to break your balls every once in a while, man.
I hear you.
Keep you honest.
I hear you. Appreciate that.
So, is there? I missed last week. Joe, I apologize. I know I'm going to be castigated, castrated, enumerated, and everything else for not being here.
Well, Johnny, I've been forced to put you on probation.
Well, Joe, it's not the first time in my life, in different segments of my life, that I've been put on probation. It's happened before. So, Spencer,
yeah.
So what is it that's what's the burr in your saddle? What are they? Is the message forums? Is it the negativity of some of your
Oh my God,
peers?
it's a negativity. It's to some degree it's a message forums, but that really is not a big deal. That's to be expected. It's just the crazy emails and just the demanding emails, and I'm thinking to myself, holy cow! I mean, the bigger this gets, the worse it gets. And it seems...
Well, you do hold the cure for hair loss, and you do not want to let it loose. I mean, I know it's the holy grail.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? Then the thing is, the fact that you're saying that, this is going to be put out there online, and it's going to be transcribed, by the way, and people are going to pick on every word you say and every word that I say.
Well...
And twist it and have fun with it.
That's sad.
Well, you know what? You know what's interesting? You don't see this in any other field. You don't see this type of, intensity. I'm going to say intensity. That's the word I'm going to use.
Well, you know why? Because this particular field, there's so many charlatans, from the snake oils to the, you were talking about some of the procedures earlier that were, failures from the supposedly doctors that performed like surgery on myself, Joe, and others.
But we're not talking about, this isn't coming from veterans. This isn't the stuff that's coming from the guys who were burned in the past. It's just amazing to me. And there's so much misinformation being spewed out there, online and on other resources. And I think to myself, God, it's just, it seems to be getting worse. That's all I'm saying. I've been doing this for a long time, and it was bad. The industry itself... A lot
of them are your competitors, though, Spencer. You have to admit, you've exposed a lot of people for what they are, and there's a lot of jealousy out there. So there's people taking shots at you, and they figure, that if they can keep you down, and, they can keep, throwing the fastball at your head, you're not going to dig in and take a good swing at them. And you know what? It's a 9-inning game. We're not even out of the first inning.
Oh yeah, listen, I'm just voicing my frustration, and
you should. I mean, you know what? You're human. You're allowed to. You're allowed to.
But the truth is, I still do. I love you guys. I love. I was speaking to a guy today, who is a fan of the show. Somebody that I was lucky enough to be able to help earlier this year, maybe it was a year ago already, and he had some questions for me. It took me a long time to get back to him. Sometimes it could take me 2 months to make a phone call because I'm just so busy and so many people want me to contact them. Called this kid up, and I could hear in his voice that it just made him feel better. And we had a nice conversation. I was able to, I think, cheer him up a little bit about his situation. And when that happens in my world, and when I'm able to touch somebody's life like that and kind of get that, that feedback from these guys like, hey, man, you really helped me, then I know it's all worth it. Believe me,
anytime that you can help someone and they truly, from the heart, tell you, thank you, you've helped me, it's worth all the negativity that's you encounter in life. And no matter whether it's, what you're doing or, some other service that you're giving. So, tomorrow's a new day.
Oh, absolutely. I'll have a beer when I get off the air, relax a little bit, watch some television.
Well, I mentioned that you needed a good belt of Johnny Walker Blue, and that we needed to take Dr. Bauman out with Joe and Andrew and.
Let me tell you something. I was in Vegas with Dr. Bauman, and I'm not going to say too much, but the truth of the matter is, he is a fun guy and he's a cool guy, and I really got to know him really well over there at the conference, and I just realized, he's a really cool guy. I deal with a lot of people. I deal with a lot of people in this industry, and he's a good guy.
We have one of the callers or one of the chatters saying, "Put some beer in the Jets cup."
Did I put a lot of different beverages in this Jets cup over the years?
Is that Jets cup going to be a TiVo cup, or is it going to be a, what's the other gentleman's name? It's a quarterback, Sanchez cup.
Oh, this is a whatchamacallit cup. Jesus.
Well, they got a quarterback now?
There's a Joe Namath cup, my man.
Oh, man.
That's how old I am.
Joe Willie. Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania.
That's how old I am. Well, listen, man, I appreciate...
Not how old you are, it's how old we are,
I appreciate the call. I'm going to take some phone calls. Maybe we got some questions, all right?
All right, you know what? Hang in there, dude. We're all behind you.
I appreciate it, man. Take it easy.
Bye, Joe.
Bye, Johnny.
888-659-3727. God almighty, I must sound terrible tonight, and I really don't feel that bad. I'm just voicing some frustrations. Everything's cool, guys. Relax. I appreciate your concern. Hey, who's this? You're on the air.
Hey, Spencer, it's Sam from New York.
Hey, Sam from New York. What can I do for you?
Yeah, well, I did a unscientific test in regards to how much of a role does hair play in the courtship of a man to a woman. So you often hear, at least the media would have you believe, that a man's hair doesn't play a role in his ability to attract a woman. They say that it's the confident man that wins the day and gets the girl, personality, humor,
all
these attributes.
Yeah.
Right. So, and they always show you the example of some, either athlete or famous, actor or someone with a model attached to their arm. Well, of course, the guy's rich, he's famous.
Right.
She's going to be with him. And for the average guy on your show, it's all a bunch of BS. So we know that, that doesn't apply to the average guy who's suffering.
No, it doesn't.
So what I did was I actually got 2 photos of myself, approximately age 20 to 30. I'm not sure exactly when, but it's in that vicinity. One was me sporting a full head of hair, and the other one was me sporting a Norwood 7. Now, full head of hair because I had a piece.
Right.
Now, in the picture, it looked good.
Yeah.
You could not tell. It looked really good. So what I did was I posted 2 profiles on one of the numerous dating sites that are out there.
You didn't do that to yourself, did you?
I did it just to prove, because, people are doubters and people are, naysayers. And what I did was I did the first one with the Norwood 7, and I sent out about 20 invite messages and waited a week, and I got 0 replies back. 0.
Wow.
So then I waited another week, and I posted the new one, different name, different profile, with the full head of hair, sent out 20 messages again to the same girls, and I got back 12 responses.
Oh shit!
But
Oh,
then
man.
in addition, I got 5 unsolicited responses
Wow.
from girls I never contacted. I mean, it's
So
just
why
so
don't you go out? Why don't you put the piece back on? Go out with these girls, take them to dinner, and just pull it off. I'm telling you, I will get somebody out there to film that.
No, dude, I got rid of it 2 years ago, and it was the best thing I ever did. Not because of the girl thing. It's just I just couldn't deal with it no more. It was just such I don't know. It was high maintenance. It was you're constantly self-conscious. You're always feeling like it's noticeable. Even it works great when it's dark, when it's you're in a club or something like that. Then it's fine. But when you're in real world, real life, and you're dealing with people on a daily basis, they're gonna spot it. Eventually, you're gonna have a bad day. When you have a bad day, you're busted.
And how long did you wear it for?
Oh, I wore it for years. I wore it for, probably like 20 years.
20 years. How old are you now?
Now I'm your age, Spence.
So you've been wearing it. So you wore a piece for 20 years. Were you able to? And I remember you. I mean, I get. I speak to so many people, but I definitely remember you. I don't remember if you're married though. Did you say you were married?
Yeah, I'm married now. Got married a couple of years ago, and
Did you get married after you took the piece off?
Got married and then took the piece off. Correct.
Okay, so you hooked her with the hair on.
Correct. Okay. In fact, it's even funny is that when we were dating, we happened to be, it was like, I don't know, maybe like the third or fourth time we were together, and we were watching TV on the couch, and I think Deal or No Deal came on, and she said it was funny. She goes, I don't like bald guys, but Howie Mandel, he could pull it off.
Oh shit! You're sitting there under your hairpiece.
Yes.
Oh my god! Wow. So did you tell her? You didn't tell her that night though.
No, not that night, but eventually I did. And
now, how did you break that to her? I'm curious. I mean, this is interesting stuff. I'm sure there's a lot of guys who are listening who are under a piece right now, who are wearing a piece, who may be dating somebody, and they're terrified to say anything. How'd you do it?
Let's see. It takes a while. You have to really have the trust of the person. You have to have some kind of a commitment. So once you're already there emotionally, both of you have to both be there at the same place. Then, and you feel like, hey, this is the time to just, let it all out. Well, I felt comfortable at a certain point. I said, hey, I got to tell you something. And, this is what I've been doing. And you'll probably, after I tell you, you're going to say, oh, well, that's why you're telling me not to touch your hair. Because, you got the piece. You can't have them rub their fingers through your hair.
Absolutely not.
You're going to be busted.
I can't have anybody touch my hair. I just can't do it. It'll be it's like locked in there, man. I got so much hairspray and makeup on.
So I broke it, and then she was like, well, I still love you and nothing changed. But the point is, I would have never met you if I didn't have it to begin with. That's the point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And what did she say to that?
I would have never snagged her had I not had it from the get go.
Right now.
She's going to say, well, we're here now. We can't think about what would have been.
Right.
But the bottom line is, hair makes a tremendous difference. The girl will never get to know you, and never get to know your personality unless the attraction is there to get to know you.
Absolutely. And I agree 100%. And I tell people all the time, it's not fair, but you are going to be judged because of your hair loss. Yeah, you need to be confident. If you can't do anything about it, you have to figure out a way to get through life as a hair loss sufferer or without hair. But it's not going to be as easy. And it doesn't matter who you are, who you were, how good looking you were with hair, it changes you. And there are a few guys out there that could really pull it off, but it is very, it's atypical for the most part. It's just the way that it is. Most people, most guys look more attractive with a full head of hair, period.
Oh, without a doubt. And just another quick little story. Just a couple weeks ago, I had some family and friends that I haven't seen for a while invited over for a barbecue. So after the barbecue, we all came into the house and we sat in the living room. We watched a DVD. I threw on the remake of the Planet of the Apes from Mark Wahlberg. You remember that?
Sure.
And in there was a scene where one of the apes actually took off a toupee.
Yes.
And when that happened, this is an action film with all shooting and violence.
Everyone's cracking up. Yeah.
Everybody was laughing so uncontrollably that it was beyond what was necessary. They just kept. It was just like the most hysterical thing they've ever seen. And then in the middle of the movie, they bring up Goodfellas and Murray the Wig.
Yeah.
Oh, remember Goodfellas? The guy they ripped his wig off.
Sure.
Yeah, and then my friend's girlfriend is like, yeah, well, they killed Murray the Wig. At least he won't be spreading his genes.
Yeah, it's Maury's wigs. Maury's wigs won't come off.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Listen, it's a fucked up situation, man. It is what it is. That's why I do this. And no one really understands it. No one talks about it. Usually, you're not going to speak about this with your friends. Sometimes you do if your friend is dealing with it at the same time, but or as well. But sometimes you can't even do that. So this is the reality of hair loss. No matter what they say, every article you read, and when I see these articles in these women's magazines or in GQ or whatever, and they're talking about strong, bald men, and they're showing the same fucking images of the same guys, including Michael Jordan, in every article, I just realized that society may never get this. They only get it once it happens to them.
Right.
And that's how
Michael Jordan was. Go ahead.
No, and that's what we have to deal with. That's it.
Right.
We cannot change society's perception. I've been trying forever. And you know what? If I go through all the articles that I've been in, and sometimes, I have some stuff on my studio walls, and every once in a while, I'll kind of like reminisce and read some of the stuff. And I just remember like what a joke it was to some people when I was speaking to certain journalists and trying to just let them know, listen, this is a really serious issue for most guys. I have a sense of humor about it. I talk about being the Harry Houdini of the comb over and everything that I've been through. But this is the reason I can do what I do, and the reason I've had success doing what I do is because this hits home with people who are dealing with hair loss. And you, as a reporter, just can never get it. They always want to put some bullshit, comical twist on things. And it's very difficult to read an article that doesn't have some sort of a pun or some sort of a, something that's going to kind of lighten the mood about the situation. So,
right. Right.
You know what I'm talking about.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. These new, I guess, future treatments that some of the guys are talking about, that may not help someone, let's say, in my position who's Norwood 7. This is probably more like going to help people who are just losing their hair, correct?
Not necessarily. No, not necessarily. And Joe, okay, let Joe answer this. Joe's the expert in this. Go ahead, Joe.
I'm sorry. When people say that, really upsets me, Spencer. I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize.
Go ahead.
I get very emotional. People make that statement. Let me explain something to you, sir. Even though I know it's 7, the hair follicle has been shown and never dies. It only shrinks, and it's in a dormant state. You have small vellus hairs, just as many as a man with a full head of hair. My grandfather lived to the age of 98. I studied his head under a magnifying glass. He was a Norwood 7. He had small, fine hairs. So the bottom line is you could be helped with these future treatments just as much as a person who has, let's say, the Norwood 2 or Norwood 3. I don't mean to castigate you, but I have to
Joe,
make that point very clear.
Joe, we have something in common. My dad is 79, and he's got a full head of hair. Yet I started losing my hair at 17 and went Norwood 7 by 20. What's that?
Your dad, you said?
I said, you and I have something in common. I said, my dad also has a full head of hair, and he's 79 years old. I said, I lost my hair at 17.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Can you not hear? You can't hear Joe? Joe, are you there?
You hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, my father's 84 and I hate him. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead with your story.
Okay, who's saying that you have something very in common, that his father is in his 70s and he has a full head of hair also?
That's correct. That's what I said. And but I don't hate my dad, but that's the fact of life.
It is. It's a sad fact of life. And it is what it is. And that's why I preach, we need to find ways to feel comfortable in our own skin. You wore a piece for how many years? You weren't totally comfortable, but it got you through your life and it got you to meet your mate, so you were comfortable enough and you felt you were able to attract this woman. And once she was attracted to you, it didn't really matter to her anymore. And that's got to be a great feeling.
I mean, you got to remember how those hair pieces evolved. You're talking about, 20 years ago, they did not look as good as they did, that they do currently.
Right.
So, I went through the whole evolution of it. So it was a pretty rough going.
Yeah, I know a guy he's our age, and he's a pretty depressed cat, but he's a really good looking guy. He's been wearing a hairpiece forever, and he has not been able to get past the fact that he has a hairpiece, meaning that it's very difficult for him to get into relationships. He used to confide in me and say, he had to get loaded to kind of meet a woman and to be with a woman, and I think he stopped drinking, so he's having difficulties now. And I haven't spoken to him in a while, but a really good looking guy, and he just kind of was paralyzed by this hairpiece. Now he has a bad hair transplant. I've never seen it. That he's hiding under the hairpiece. And he's, keeps talking about, if he didn't get this done, he could shave his head, things of that nature. He'd ended up having surgery at a very young age. But I guess the point is, this is a guy who you would think would, have easy success with women. And it's holding him back. He's paralyzed by it. You at least were able to go forward, deal with your life, meet your wife, tell her about your hairpiece, and then eventually ditch it. So I think you are in a lot better position than a lot of guys who are literally hiding under a hairpiece and they feel like they can't let anybody into their life because of it.
Yeah, I mean, it was, believe me, it was very difficult. And probably if I didn't meet my wife, I'd still be wearing. But the problem was my hair just was getting so thin on the sides that it really was becoming so difficult to maintain it and make it blend. And it was becoming impossible.
Let me ask you this. What happens if you didn't have any hair loss and, you met your wife and she said to you, I have something to tell you. And she takes off her wig. Do you think that do you think that you'd be able to deal with something like that?
That's a tough one. I don't know. It depends on how she looked without it.
She's not going to look even close to as good without her hair. That's just the way that is. What would you do?
Well, then it depends on how good she looks with it.
Ah, okay. So if she looked good with it, you would say, listen, just keep that shit on.
Right. If she looked really good with it, yeah, I could deal. I'd deal with it, no problem.
No problem. But but you wouldn't let her take it off in front of you.
If she got a pretty face, even without the hair, she's still going to look pretty. But, of course, with the hair, she'll look a lot prettier.
Well, there's a lot of girls that look really hot. They're sexy. They're good-looking girls. You remove their hair, they are not good-looking at all.
Right. That is correct. And that's the thing. That's the beauty of hair. That's how powerful hair is.
That's right. So there are millions of women right now, and there's plenty of women.
Same with guys. There are a lot of guys. It's because of their hair that makes them so attractive to women. If it wasn't for the hair, you could just picture them, like you could use your eyes to cut out an Norwood 7 on them, and they would nowhere near match up to you and me.
Dude, there's a great picture floating around of Andrew Zarian. This guy Joe DeMax basically did a great Photoshop of him without hair. There's a couple of them in our message form, which are kind of funny, but the Joe DeMax one is just perfect, and it's horrifying. And you just look, they caught him in like this really, with this very interesting expression on his face. He looks miserable anyway, but without his hair, forget. And this is a really good looking kid. He actually did look fine. I think he looked pretty good without his hair, but it totally changes a person. Now there's a post on the message forum. Some guy did the same thing to me. I don't have it here. And
equally horrifying.
I look like my name should be Bernie, and no offense, Dr. Bauman, but I should be living in Boca. So, I just look like some old Jew from Boca. And I'm, believe me, all of my uncles and my dad is an old Jew.
Well, Spence, you got very, very lucky that you were able to catch the Propecia wave at the right time, because I did not have that opportunity.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I I'm sorry about that, but you seem like you're pretty well put together at this point. I'm glad that you're continuing to hang out with us guys, even though you kind of passed.
Oh, and Spence, I wanted to thank you for also doing that little, I guess, the live episode with the coloring of the scalp from Italy.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah, because I would really consider actually trying that out, being that it's only temporary.
I think that's the only reason why I did that. I am not particularly a fan of scalp micropigmentation because of the permanency of it and the fact that at least the ones that I have seen, they could look pretty good initially, and sometimes they can take on a quasi three-dimensional look from a distance, but just never looked right, and even the new ones just don't look right to me. And I don't care what people say, there's always a possibility that when the colors fade, they may not fade naturally. They may not take on a natural hue, may end up looking blue. So I'm concerned about that. This is different because, at least according to the people that are doing this, it is temporary. It's like a natural, organic color base. I don't know what it's made out of. I have to find that out. But it's supposed to fade naturally without actually changing color, meaning that it stays the same color, but it just gets lighter and lighter and lighter. So you kind of have a way out.
It's kind of like it's disappearing.
It's kind of like it's disappearing, but again, I haven't seen it at that stage yet. But that's what they're claiming.
The only negative is that it's outrageously priced, around $2,500 for a Norwood 7.
Big deal.
And what did you say, 2,500? 2,500 for Norwood 7?
That's pocket change, buddy.
I can tell you that there's a doctor here who's doing it. The permanent version, I think they're charging like $6,000. So
for the permanent.
Yeah,
the permanent.
Yeah, so I think that paying $2,500 for something that's temporary.
But that's every 2 years.
Yeah. Well, how much did it cost you to wear hair?
Yeah, it was a lot more than that.
Yeah. So I mean, if this is something that can help you. But I would not jump into it.
Don't forget, you got to take a flight to Italy.
That's true.
And don't forget that you had to do a follow-up touch-up in a month after. That means you got to hang around for a month.
Maybe at some point they're going to be. I know that they're going to be actually in New York with Dr. Feller in September. Oh, by the way,
yes. Oh, really?
Since you're interested in this, I might as well tell you this. I said I wasn't going to talk about it on the air because I was asked to. I don't really want to pimp anything out, but they are looking for subjects to provide free service to. So if that's something that you're interested in, and I'm not saying to do it, man, because I don't know what it looks like on a Norwood 7. Would I do it myself? Absolutely not at this point. But if it's something that you're really interested in, and since you call the show, it may be an opportunity for you to get something done for nothing.
Interesting. This is in September, right?
Yeah, it's in September. So if you want to, you could email. Do you know Specs from the message forums?
Heard of them.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Why don't you email our email and just say who you are. And I'll forward that. I'll forward that to Specs. And if you want to do it, man, the opportunity's there. But I got to tell you, I don't know what it looks like in the end. I don't know what it's going to look like in a Norwood 7. It may be totally fucked up. Or it could be it could be great. I like the idea, and the reason why I showcased it, and the reason why I did the live interview is because it seems very cool. It seems like, all right, this scalp micropigmentation is a big thing. So many people are having it done. At the very least, if they're going to have it done, I would like to see them have a way out where it's not permanent. And at least the work that I've seen, the small, area that Specs had done looks really good. It really made a big difference in his appearance, but you don't have any hair.
Right.
So I don't know if it's going to look like you have this two-dimensional, thing on your head, or if it's going to look completely natural.
Well, Spencer, let me ask you about this gentleman. Will he have to shave the sides of his head to have this done, or he can leave his fringe? So I'm confused about it.
No, I mean he could wear it any way that he wants, but to tell you the truth, it really works best to have like a very, very shaved look. It basically just kind of like mimics the appearance of, a less
You
than,
want the
less
shadow.
than one. It's just like a shadow, kind of like frames your face with a shadow of a hairline. You know what I mean, Joe?
Yeah, you definitely you have to razor it down. Otherwise, it's going to be your side fringe is going to stick out a 1/4 inch, and the rest is going to be flat as skin. So you have to shave it to the skin.
Yeah, and you're right, Guy. His job was done for a scar, and that's why I told this cat, I don't know if it's going to look like shit if he has it done. But he's talking about flying to Italy. He's in New York already. I figured that I would tell him that this is what's happening.
No, I appreciate that, Spence. I appreciate that because it's definitely. I was even considering. I actually went for a consultation with his hair clinic, but when I went there and I saw the guy's actual work that was done on himself, it just looked like I didn't see dots. I saw like just a whole sheet of ink, but he had hair there already. He had like a lot of hair, so it was mixed in between his own hairs and all the ink.
I've seen so many bad jobs. I saw I remember I went to, there's a conference in New York. Actually, Ray Woods was doing, coming over from Australia to show his FUE technique back in the day, the Woods technique. And I saw this guy. I met this guy who was well known on the message forums many, many, many years ago, and his entire scalp was blue. I had never. That's the first time I'd ever seen anything quite as bad as that when it came to this type of scalp pigmentation. Now, that was the dark ages when he had it done. It's come a long way. I personally still would not do anything permanently, and I couldn't recommend it.
Right, and the only thing I'm also a little skeptical about, and it's what you actually brought to the people's attention, is that you could wind up with some tiny micro scarring in your scalp, and maybe that will affect some future treatment.
Well, and they're claiming that they are not going deep enough, and that's one of the reasons why it's temporary, to cause any type of scarring, any type of fibrotic tissue to develop. I don't know if that's true. I don't know how much you need to score the skin in order to create any appreciable scarring. They claim that there is none. So, but I do know there are a couple of doctors that are looking into it, who are one who's in the IHRS, and I think it could be a good adjunct to, for certain people, for scar repair and stuff like that. It seems to be working with specs. But again, if I was shaving my head, I would not jump into it. But if you're already actively looking at it and this is something that you're interested in doing, this may be an opportunity for you.
Well, I thank you, Spencer. You're a good man. I thank you very much, and I'll definitely look into it. I will let you go, and you can wrap up your show, and God bless you.
All right, man. Listen, take care. Good luck.
Okay.
All right. 888-659-3727. I really didn't take any breaks, but I'm going to just take some calls, and let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, Spence.
Hey, George. What's happening, man?
I got in late tonight and get into like 8:15 and on the call. And so did I miss anything significant?
Not really. I don't know. Joe, why don't you tell them the news? I'm not going to keep it.
Well, I had a presentation, Spencer. You really hurt my feelings about that.
What presentation?
About the L'Oreal news.
I didn't realize. I didn't realize it was a presentation. I was just joking, and that's why I said, Joe, you go ahead. I don't want to keep the news from George.
All right, George. Well, this last week, the L'Oreal Corporation had a major presentation in Paris from Vichy Laboratories, a subdivision of L'Oreal, their scientific division. There are various physicians there. I'll make it brief because I know Spencer has to shut the show down. Showing slides. Okay, the bottom line is, I'll summarize. They're claiming, L'Oreal is claiming, I'm not claiming, that they can somehow, on my haters to say, attack me tomorrow, that they can regrow 18% of hair on a person's head within 3 months. That they are directly, with their stem oxide, affecting the cellular level of the hair follicle, and they are affecting progenitor cells. I'm sure you've heard of progenitor cells before.
Yeah, progenitor. They're affecting cellular levels of what?
Progenitor cells.
You said progenitor cells.
Creating a hypoxic environment which induces more oxygen into the hair follicles at a cellular level. This will be dispensed by it's like an electric toothbrush. You will put a cartridge in and use it on a daily basis. The cost will be $100 per month.
$100 per month, did you say?
Yeah, that will be the cost, yes.
And you said they claim they can regrow they can regrow 18%?
Within 3 months. This is L'Oreal's claim, not my claim.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't. That's what I meant to say. So, L'Oreal is claiming they can regrow 18%. I wonder where the 18% comes from, Spencer. I mean, why 18? Why not 80? You know, what's the deal?
That's in 3 months.
I don't know what the deal is. That's what their findings are. So they were somehow able, and they're making these claims that they're able to grow 18%. And, that could be significant if that's the case, but 80% would be great.
Now, these are terminal hairs, not these are terminal, this is terminal hair growth?
Terminal hair growth, according to what I'm reading, yeah. Some cat in the chat room just said 18% is nothing. Really? 18%, I know what six is about 25,000 hairs, which is about 12,000 grafts. Really smart guy, Fogg. Sorry, go ahead.
Everyone's saying you sound a little distorted on this phone. I don't know if it's your phone or our end, but everyone else sounds pretty good.
Spencer, I had trouble understanding Joe on one thing he was saying. What is the supposed?
I wasn't even listening.
The supposed mechanism of action of this thing. He said something about progenitor cells, and he said something about hypoxia, which is like low oxygen levels. But that's all I thought I heard. Could you clean that up for me?
Not really. Joe, can you explain that again?
Yes, it has direct effect at the cellular level. Direct effect on the cellular level on the progenitor cells. So it's all related to PGD. PGD2. It's all interrelated. And somehow I've heard rumors that Dr. Castellalis is somehow involved with this. I don't know. That's what I've heard.
Yeah,
He's been involved with L'Oreal before.
You told us that a couple of weeks ago, and I have not heard that.
I've read it on the internet.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the case. I mean, I haven't heard it from any legitimate sources, I should say.
Right. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying that's what I've heard.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys, I'm going to take a. I just wanted to make sure George got the update. I'm going to take another phone call, and then
It's coming along, struggling with a number of things that have really been, kind of taking a toll. It's there's been a lot of stress, like a toxic level of stress going on, and it's been tough, man. I'm just gonna be straight with it. It's been tough. It's been really tough.
I'm sorry to hear that. Obviously, you didn't hear at the beginning of the show. Everyone was saying that I was sounding pretty fucked up. And I'm under, I have a tremendous amount of stress in my life too, dealing with my dad and, that issue and, other things in life. So I get it, bro. I know what stress does to you. I definitely know it.
Totally, yeah.
For you it is. What I try to do, and it's important that you do this, is you got to get yourself into the gym. You've got to exercise. I'm lucky enough I have a gym in my home, so I'm able to just get in there and just kind of zone out. Just put some kick-ass music on and just go to town and lift and, then of course I gorge myself on pizza and all kinds of other crap, but at least I'm getting in the gym, So for that hour or hour and a half that I'm in there and I'm training, I feel great. And then afterwards for several hours, the endorphins are still pumping. So you're able to kind of handle things in a way that you would not be able to handle if you just kind of allowed the stress and the cortisol and all that shit to take over your body.
Well, that's what's been happening to me for the past 7 years, or probably about the last 10 years. It's been a cortisol. Basically, I've been soaking in a vat of cortisol, and it's really done a number on me, man. It really has. But I got to turn this shit around, and I'm working on it. I'm taking proactive steps, but. Sometimes during the day, things just start piling up and things start happening, and all of a sudden you get that you get that feeling like you're being overwhelmed, like the stress is starting to, like you're starting to drown in the stress and the cortisol, and you start getting pissed.
That's what porn. That's what porn is for, dude.
Do you have that point sometimes during the day where you just start getting angry? It's like you want to rip somebody's fucking head off, angry?
I have. I'm actually a pretty. I'm kind of able to come to terms with things pretty easily and kind of control those emotions. And what I mean by that is I recognize that this is not good for me. So I'm able to step back. I'm able to step back and deal with it. It doesn't mean that the stress isn't there. It doesn't mean that I don't have the tremendous problems and issues and family matters and issues with, with business and whatever it is that, can take a toll on you. I've just kind of learned how to deal with it. And it doesn't mean, obviously, it's pretty obvious tonight. People are saying that I sound a little stressed, but, I'm kind of letting you guys know that this is what's happening in my life right now. Nothing is the end of the world. And this is kind of cathartic to be able to be stressed on live radio or live, internet broadcasting. And, just let the world know I'm just a regular guy just like you guys.
That makes a huge difference to those.
Super George, I'm not a physician, but let me just prescribe 3 things for you. Ingest some alcohol, take some psychotropic medications, and have some sex. Maybe you'll feel better.
Oh God, I appreciate that, Joe. Spencer, it's I appreciate you, showing us your vulnerable side makes us all feel better. And for me, the biggest struggle I've got with it is that I realize that, I do a lot of praying, like, for guidance and the thing that upsets me is that the whole basis of my Christian faith is supposed to be forgiving evil people who are doing evil things to me and those around me. But it's just really, that's the hardest gig for me about being a Christian, is trying to forgive people who are trying to destroy you.
Well, let me tell you something. It's not easy for me either, and I certainly understand that because I've dealt the last 2 years especially with some of the most vicious insanity that I can't even describe it. And it's been very tough. I just won a landmark case for online defamation, which, against the hair transplant surgeon who really, went out there to aggressively try to destroy not just my reputation, but the reputation of his colleagues and the reputation of one of his patients. And that's what really set me off, is when I saw what was happening to this patient. I'm able to handle all of the nonsense that goes on online, but when I caught this guy and I realized, this is a really, really bad human being, I had to go to war with him. And we won that war. But you know what? There's never a winner when it comes to a lawsuit, because it's just the amount of stress and time and work involved. It doesn't matter how much how much money I won. It doesn't matter, the moral victory is very important, but what he did still affects me in ways that it's difficult for me to explain on the radio, and I'd rather not actually. But a really, really, really evil person who made up tremendously horrible things about his colleagues, actually worse about his colleagues than about me, and about one of his patients. You would never think that a physician who took an oath that is supposed to be, a professional in this world, who's supposed to have a certain level of intellect, would ever do what this guy has done. So I get it, dude. I understand.
It's pretty horrific, and I understand what you're saying, and for me, it's the frustration comes from having gone through a serious auto accident 10 years ago and several years of legal bullshit and prevailing, but still having permanent injuries and surgery and all this stuff, and then going through similar bullshit with the federal government.
And then trying to collect
thugs on planet Earth, and when you win with those pricks, you still lose.
Yeah, it's just, and then you got to try to collect your judgments. It's a big.
Well, that's just it. I won some significant victories against the federal government, my former employer, who fucked me over severely, and I won. and it took me many years and tons of money, and I won. And the fuckers won't follow through with what they're supposed to do, and try to, you know. And this evil attorney I had told me, he said, "Hey," after he sucked, you know, tens of thousands of dollars, like 40-something grand out of me, and I did 95% of the work, told me, "Hey, I've won your case," which you really didn't. I won it. I did 95% of the fucking work. And then he says, "I won your case, but I can't put a gun to the federal government's head and force them to pay you what they owe you."
Yeah, I can tell you this, and you said something interesting. That's profound, what you just said, you know, that your attorney said. Yeah, anyone who's getting involved with an attorney who's trying to pursue any type of matter, you better realize that if you don't do the work, that shit's not going to be done right. Because I can't even tell you how many times I had to make corrections.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. Go ahead.
No, how many times I had to correct these guys? How many times I had to redo documents?
Me too.
How many times I had to actually work on the actual complaint to make it, you know, make sense? I've never experienced. I mean, let me tell you something, man. It's just, and these are good people. These are good lawyers, but you really have to do your work. Otherwise,
yes, you do.
It's just the way that it is.
And the thing that pisses me off so much about it, after going through all that bullshit and winning everything, and still can't make the government, they still can't make the government pay me with them. You go to senators and representatives, and those worthless bastards, they won't do their jobs. They don't give a shit. And after it's all over, I talked, you know, I finally got a friend, an attorney friend, who's helping me pro bono now, because he saw how the first lawyer hosed me. And he saw everything I'd gone through, and I said, you know, what do you think? And he said, I think he says, I'll be honest with you. He said, after it's all over, he said, I think you ought to go to law school. He said, you'd make a hell of a fucking lawyer.
Yeah.
I said, I'll be honest with you. I fucking hate lawyers, and I hate this legal system, and I hate the federal government because it's all evil.
We have a lawyer in the chat room. He's like, damn lawyers. Listen, man, you know, we all have different experiences, Mike. And but Mike's a good guy. Mike's probably an awesome.
It's like anything else. You know, there's a lot of shithead lawyers. There's a few of them that are good. A few good ones are hard to find. Same thing with doctors and all the rest of it. But I just appreciate you coming on and telling everybody how you feel and letting us say how we feel, because you know, we deal with hair loss every day, and then we deal with all this other shit in life on top of it.
Well, I actually felt bad. You know, I had Dr. Alan Bauman on, and his you know, lovely employee, and I forgot what she does, and I'm sorry, Liz. It's just, you know, I'm not thinking tonight. Who's having a hair transplant tomorrow, and I came on the air like I was pissed off. So I apologized to everybody and to Dr. Bauman for that. But you know what? It's good radio, I guess. You know, people are kind of compelled to listen to this stuff, and we were able to get you guys on the air. So, listen, George.
Hey, thanks for the news update. When did you get this Cristiano woman on here to give us her scoop on the science?
I haven't even picked up the phone to call her. That's how busy I've been.
You said you were going to call her like 2 months ago, dude.
Sorry. What am I going to do? Shoot me.
I'm just busting your balls, but you said you were going to give her a ring.
I know. It never happened. I'm not ashamed to admit it. It didn't happen. I'll give her a call. All right, George. Listen, good luck. I'll talk to you soon.
Lot.
All right. And there's been
good night, George.
Good night. There's been
Thank you very much for the update, Joe.
You got it.
And I hope the armies who are praying for me pray for you, my friend.
Somebody's been holding on for a long time. I know it's after hours already, but I'll take this call and see if we can make it quick.
Well, let's stay until 11. Who cares?
I care.
Hey, it's Curtis from Virginia. I talked to you last week.
Hey, Curtis, what's happening, man?
No, I know it's late, so I won't get into the whole thing.
Right.
But I just want to thank you. This has been, like I said, it's been a 25-year war, and this has been the best thing for me. So I really appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate you calling to say that, man.
I mean, because, like I said, you know, I have to go to counseling. My wife, and the thing that really, just real quick, is that I haven't come with you is the illusion, but it's hairspray, but I don't want anyone touching it.
Yeah,
so it's a double-edged sword.
Well, but I see, the thing is, I think part of what I do, you know, I mean, being able to do what I do is help me in that respect, because everybody knows. You know, I'm the guy who talks about his comb over. I'm the guy who talks about the crazy amount of hairspray. I'm the guy who talks about hair loss. So, you know, when somebody meets me or whatever it is, it's kind of like, you know, the cat's out of the bag already. You know what I mean? Now, the only problem I really have is I can't go to strip clubs.
No, I was getting ready to say, I always go with my friends.
Can't
and
do
I have to, like, I'm always real careful, like, because I see that when you see that hand reaching, right?
And I don't understand. You would think that strippers would know these things. You know, they're so psychologically in tune with guys. You would think that they would know that a lot of guys are kind of hiding their hair loss. Don't touch the hair.
Yeah, and I have to, like, say, my whole thing is, oh, there's product in it. That's my line. So don't, you know, but it's like I'm on guard all the time. But the problem I had with my wife was, and we finally getting settled, is it looked good with the hairspray, right? Really good.
Yeah.
So she goes, you don't need it. Why do you do it?
What, you don't need what?
You
The
know,
hairspray?
Yeah, like you don't need it. It looks good. See, but it looks good because I do all that. So it was like, it was just never, I don't know. It's just like,
dude, I have a bathroom in my studio, and we're going to have some guys from the hair loss world coming out in the end of September to actually come to my home and to do a show. I usually don't let anybody into the compound, you know, but this is they're doing a BBC documentary.
BBC.
Yeah. So I'm letting some of the guys like Joe Tronic, you know, and Specs, and, you know, Alan Feller, and, you know, some guys I would never hang out with in real life, but I'm just kidding, guys. That's a joke. But I'm letting them into the compound, and I'm telling you, if they go underneath the sink, it's probably about, and I keep this on reserve because I can't be without it, 20 cans of hairspray.
Yeah, and it's like if you travel and you forgot to pack it.
And the door, because I usually do my hair with the door open. I do it in my office. That's how fucked up I am. The door is kind of like tacky with hairspray on it.
Yeah, so you know, I won't do it. So I have to have my own at home. I have my own bathroom.
Yeah, I mean, we have. I mean, I do, like, obviously I shower in my bathroom, and I'll maybe do some of my hair, like blow dry a little bit. You know, my wife's blow dryer. When it comes down to dumbing it up, man, I go right down to the studio, you know, my bathroom in the studio. It's a nice sized bathroom. I have like a lot of good mirrors in there, and I go to town, man. I go to work.
Yeah, it's such a relief just to be able to say this stuff.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad. You know what? I was all ready to quit doing this until you called. So
I can't tell you, because honestly, then, like Joe, you know, I always listen to him, so I feel, listen to your callers. I'm lucky because I'll just real quick, and then I'll let you go. I was out last night with my friends, and we ran into some girls we went to high school with, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So all they started talking about was guys who don't have hair anymore.
Oh yeah, it's terrible, man.
But I mean, so I'm thinking like I'm an imposter. You know what I mean? Like it was so odd because I'm like the fat guy that got thin, still thinks he's fat.
Yeah, no, I get that. I try to, I guess because I talk about it so much, I think that, what do you think women are? Talk about imposters. I haven't known a woman past the age of 14 years old that doesn't dye their hair, wear fake nails. Women today, they have push-up bras, full faces, masks of makeup when they leave the house. You don't know what the fuck a woman really looks like.
Yeah, we used to call it the swimming pool test, before you really get serious about her in the pool one time.
Yeah, exactly.
If she comes up, yeah, you know what I mean? It's like who comes out of that pool is a different person.
And it's fucking frightening. So when these women talk about this stuff or talk about, you trying to do something to make yourself feel better about yourself, especially since you're not trying to augment your appearance. You're just trying to get what you had back or trying to make yourself look like you once did. That's it. These women completely changed the way they look. And I got to tell you, this may, a lot of women aren't going to like this, but, I have a wife that, I love very much who, one of the reasons I got with her and I stayed with her, she really doesn't wear makeup. She'll wear very little bit of makeup when she goes out. But during the day, she'll walk out of the house without any makeup, and to me, I'd rather have a girl that looks less glamorous 24 hours a day, but looks really cute and pretty than someone who's totally on all the time with a full mask of makeup to go to the park, to walk the dog.
That's how my wife, but I've had when I listen to Joe, I know it's extreme, but it literally, now it's better than it's been ever. But for 25 years, it was every day, every second on my mind.
Of course.
In some fashion.
I know.
And it's insidious. So
it destroys hair loss hurts. I always say that.
I don't know if this kind of talking about me. What is that he's saying? I don't understand. Maybe you can explain it to me.
He's saying he understands you, dude. There's a little part of Joe from Staten Island in all of us.
I appreciate
I mean, No, I understand. It's just because I'm lucky. I'm like Spencer in the sense, if you just saw me, you would just think, oh, what are you talking about? You wouldn't even think about it. But you can't take it mentally away because it's there. It's an illusion.
Yeah, that's what. If I pull this up, if I can somehow pry it with a crowbar and pull this up, I mean, it's not pretty. It is what it is. I feel very fortunate, extremely lucky that I saved what I saved. I mean, I'm the luckiest man in the world because I know what it could be.
Yeah. See, I got these hair transplants, like we talked about from Whiting and that, but the only lucky thing is they grew.
Right.
So I was able to do some stuff over the years and have thick, coarse hair. If not, I mean, Joe, I don't know. I would be worse than. I think honestly, with my mental state, I would have been worse than him.
I find that very hard to believe.
No. I mean, at that point, it happened so young, and so I wouldn't have been able, because I would not have worn a hairpiece. No way. Just I don't know. Even though this is in some ways is fake, it's but it's at least I know it's my hair. But I just don't. It's shallow as it is. I don't know what I would have done.
It's not shallow. It's just the way that it is. It's the way that you are. You're equipped to deal with things in a certain way. It's just like I am. I wasn't equipped to deal with it well. And you know what? Most guys aren't, especially when it starts young. So you can't feel bad about that. It's just the way that it is. It's not about being shallow. You want to be accepted. You want to look good. You want to feel comfortable in your own skin. You want to be attractive to women. What the fuck is wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, that's what the counseling has really helped me. And my counselor is a female. And for so long, she said, you beat yourself up. Stop it. You're not as abnormal as you think.
Right. And you're not.
You're not as nuts as you've been led to believe or make yourself think.
I'm the king of the nuts. This is what I do. And I don't really think every these guys are nuts. I get it. I'm the king of the sufferers. I don't know how it happened, but it happened. And I feel exactly the way that you feel, man.
Yeah. And the last note to go, the thing to that comment is the thing I found, and this happened in my 20s, is I started going to the gym religiously. And that distracted me from everything else.
And it makes a big difference. And sometimes, like I was talking about going to the gym, working out here in my house.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't do it the way that I should. I don't get like a really good training session, but I'm in there. I'm doing something, even if it's just, bench pressing or if I'm just on the treadmill. It
gave me some esteem, like while I was fighting this. It's almost like while I'm fighting this, I'll accomplish this.
Right. Well,
I can't explain it. It's like I'm going to improve in this while I'm battling this other thing.
I hear you, man. I did the same thing in my life. I also did with my career. I was like, shit, man. I gotta get my shit together, man, because I'm going to be bald.
Yeah.
And that's
it. One quick thing, sir. I think you might interrupt. I think you might suffer from a slight case of body dysmorphic disorder.
Oh, yeah. I've got issues. Listen, I'm in counseling. I recognize I have issues. So something like this, it's like you're predisposed to it. This just makes it all worse. If genetically you're going to have issues and then this happens and you're not equipped to deal with it, then everything goes crazy. But I can look it in the eye and call it, what it is. I mean, I'm not by any way saying this is a way to live, this is a way to be. Joe, I have issues.
It's just the reality of it, and that's why we're here.
Yeah, I'm dealing with them.
Yeah, look, if I didn't have issues, we wouldn't be doing the show. We wouldn't be talking to each other. But listen, guys,
really,
I got to wrap this up.
Just so you'll know, it really makes a difference.
Well, I appreciate the call, man. I really do. All right, so
cool.
keep listening. All right.
All right.
Well, take care. Take care, brush your hair. That's what Andrew Zarian says.
Spencer, 5 seconds. Make a recommendation to you, Spencer. I think you might need a vacation. You seem exhausted, and I'm worried.
I'm okay, dude. I'm all right.
I'll fill in with Andrew.
I'm all right. I'm a little tired today, but I'm not exhausted. There's
I will
somebody.
fill in with Andrew pro bono.
All right, I'm going to give you guys I'm going to give you guys a bonus call. All right, there's someone on hold. Let's just take this, and then that's it. No more calls. No more calls.
All right, 3 hour showtime.
I gotta go. I'm going to take this call.
Oh, please don't go, man.
You're on the air. Who's this?
I hate to screw your bonus call, but I wanted to hear the end of the program.
Oh,
so I called
shit.
back.
George George is the guy in the bonus call. All right, guys.
I wanted to hear the end of the fucking program. Forgive me,
George. I'm only kidding.
All right, boys, listen. I think it's a good last call.
Hey, it was a great. That dude, I didn't want to miss that guy. I would have missed that last guy, and he was really good.
He was good. We got a lot of good calls tonight. Listen, guys, George, Joe, thank you so much. I'm going to get a little rest, maybe have a drink. Let me go about the websites.
Sex.
What'd you say? Have some sex?
Sex too.
I'll see. If she's up, I'll nudge her. All right, guys. Let me get out the websites. Thebaldtruth.com, of course. If you want to interact with other hair loss sufferers, check out our message forum, baldtruthtalk.com. And you know what? If you're a woman dealing with hair loss, check out our sister site. They do a great job over there, and they've been helping women for several years. It's the Women's Hair Loss Project. That's womenshairlossproject.com. Until next time, be strong, God bless, and listen, thank you so much for hanging out.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.